They called him the Diesel.
Crank up that diesel. Let's go.
He leaned across the table and he goes, "You need to get me back there. I'll make you famous."
And to Riggins, good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone.
It's Riggo the Diesel.
Well, hello there, and welcome to Riggo the Diesel. I am John Riggins. This is our Season 2, 38th episode. Larry Michael joins me, as he always does. Larry, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, John. It seems as though you're getting very acclimated to the technology after all these weeks.
Oh, don't even say that. I just did something with a radio station, and I had to download something. Of course, thank God T-Cat was with me because he walked me through it. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do, right? Best you can. By the way, you're looking very spry today. What's going on? You got something going on tonight?
No, it's kind of, yeah. I'm going out on the town tonight. No, I was outside with my dogs, and it was a little cold, so I put my Redskins gear on, and I got my Redskins kind of den here. We've been doing Redskins Nation here. We do the podcast here as well, and so maybe there's a glimmer. Maybe there's a glimmer that sometimes later this month we'll get back to work. We'll see.
Well, listen, I guess, I don't know, for some people, for everybody. I mean, the football world lost one of its giants yesterday morning, I guess. Don Shula passed away. A guy that, you know, I remember Bum Phillips. I think one of the best phrases I've ever heard about, you could say it about anybody when you want to compliment somebody, but basically he said about Don Shula years ago that he said he could beat you with his'n, or he could take your'n and beat you. In other words, it didn't matter what he had, but he was that good of a coach. He could, as the old ball coach, you say, he could coach him up.
You know what's really impressive, John, doing some comments on him on TV and looking into his resume. He went to John Carroll University, which same place London Fletcher went to. Got drafted, played defensive back, played for the Washington Redskins. A lot of people don't know that.
I did not know that.
Yep. Went in the National Guard a couple of years into his pro football career, and he was called up in the Korean War. When he got back, he got his master's degree, and then he started his coaching career at Kentucky, coached at University of Virginia, coached for the Detroit Lions, and then went on to the Dolphins, actually the Colts, I should say, then the Dolphins. And just an incredible life.
You know, you have to look at a guy like Don Shula, and, you know, that's what, you know, I guess in a positive way, where you can put your ambition to, what do you want to say, something productive. You know, there's a lot of ambitious people out there, but they're not necessarily the kind of folks you want to hang around with. But I think he was a different guy. I believe that he was a guy because of the way he treated his players. I don't know, really, and I've never heard, because I don't really know that many Dolphins. I met Nick Bonacani, the late Nick Bonacani, about a year and a half ago up in Bridgehampton, New York, but we didn't get to talk. I should have asked him what Shula was like. But I get the impression, you know, that the way he coached, that, you know, it was very similar to what I experienced with Coach Gibbs, in that everybody was on the same page at all times. There's, you know, one Super Bowl, I forget which one it was, but there's a photograph of him being carried off the field. And I think he was one of those guys. I don't think he was a particularly, what do I want to say, you know, everybody's friend. I think, you know, because I think he had a firm grip on what he wanted to get done and how he wanted to implement things and all that. But I think that the fact that he was successful, and the big thing was a method to his madness. A lot of times I think some coaches go astray because what they're telling you isn't necessarily, you know, you look at it from a logical standpoint, you go, well, this doesn't really make any sense. And I think that he might have been one of those exceptional guys that everything he told his teammates, they went, all right, that makes sense to me, let's do it. I don't know.
You know what strikes me is as they start to eulogize him, and I've heard it over the years, and I've seen it here with guys like you and Dexter and Joe Theismann and Mo. I mean, players that played for Joe Gibbs loved Joe Gibbs. They thought, you know, there was a bond between player and coach. Each player had a unique bond, a brotherhood, a brotherly love, if you will. Even to the second Gibbs go around, Cooley, Portis, they can't say nothing but good things about Joe Gibbs and how great of a guy he was, how he treated him like a man, treated him fairly. And as I watch Larry Zonka and some of these other guys talk about it, I kind of feel that they feel the same way about him as you do about Joe Gibbs. Even though everybody feels differently, you can't put it all in one bucket. But that respect, I guess, factor that they had by playing for the man made them respect the man even more, if that makes sense.
Well, it does. And you know what, though? You know what's really weird when you say that, because you can go all the way back to Vince Lombardi. And you hear what the players, you know, there were so many players, and I forget their names now, but, you know, they were part of that great, you know, the great Packer run of the late 50s and early 60s. But a lot of them would say that it went beyond football, that Lombardi shaped their lives. And, you know, from afar, and I'll never forget my dad, you know, telling me, this was back in 1970, early 70, or not early, but like that was my senior year in college. And then I think when we got into the, you know, 71, when actually the draft was coming up, my dad kept going. He says, you know, I think you're going to get drafted by the Redskins. I think Vince Lombardi's going to be your coach. God only knows why he was saying that. I think he was probably trying to scare me. I don't know. Because I have to tell you, my impression of Vince Lombardi was kind of like it was of Bobby Knight, who I got to know a little bit when I was doing Riggo on the Range. We went fishing in Alaska together. But those kind of coaches, I kind of go, ooh, I don't like those hard, tough-nosed guys. But at the same time, what I wanted to say was all that comes from, the respect always comes from success. I have a feeling, you know, that there's plenty of people out there that have coached at different levels, and that great guys, people love them, but there's not, and a guy could be kind of a horse's rear end. And yet, if he gets you to the promised land, you kind of forgive that because you're all there for a common purpose. Whereas the nice guy is, you know, Leo DeRocher used to say, finishes last, which I don't think is necessarily true, but some of them do. And, you know, even though you like those guys, you don't feel the same way about them just because they don't have that tag champion, you know, on their resume.
And that's why leadership it comes in different flavors, doesn't it? Leadership, you know, you lead by example, all this stuff. But that was the core of Don Shula, was being a leader. And you wonder, you know, grew up in Ohio. He probably had some young coaches as he was growing up. But, you know, you go back, look at the people he coached all the way back, Johnny Unitas, all the way past Dan Marino, guys that he coached. And that's a lot of great football players that just swore by the guy. So what a great life lived, I would say, right?
I would have to say that I agree with you, Larry. You know, there's one thing, though, and there is that, you know, it's kind of, he's an interesting guy for this reason as well, if you think about it. He coached the only perfect season ever to be accomplished in the National Football League. And last year, or this year, is a 100-year anniversary. And at the same time, you'd have to say that he also lost to a team in the Super Bowl, the New York Jets, that was, to this day, I still think, I mean, you tell me if you got another upset in your mind is in football that was any bigger than that upset. I just don't see it. It was an impossibility. Even the late Mike Curtis, whom we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, I read where he was saying that basically that could never happen again. You know, and to this day, I'm still kind of scratching my head over it. And at the same time, the Jets had a decent team, and really Matt Snell was the guy that, you know, he had 120 yards rushing. People forget about that. Joe Namath was the guy, and the spotlight was on him, and he knew how to do the right things when the camera was rolling. But like I said, he has one of the, you know, at the same time, he's got the most glorious position as the perfect season, and one of the ignominious titles as well as losing. I think they were 17-point favorites going in for that game, and they managed. I mean, they didn't even show up basically. And you know, when you got a guy like Johnny Unitas on your team, you got to scratch your head. How did that happen? It was just a serious off day for Don Shula and the Colts.
Well, yeah, it's in the record book, but so are the most wins in pro football history and that unbeaten season. So, you know, if you coach enough games, you're going to lose some, you're going to win some. But I don't know if anybody could really duplicate that type of career nowadays. I mean, Belichick, I think, is probably going to have to coach another 3 years to get close. And he doesn't have Tom Brady anymore. So we'll see. We'll see if anybody tops Don Shula. Belichick, I guess, is within range. But the longevity he had as a head coach at a high level, despite the losses, It was really remarkable, John. Really was.
Well, and his first head coaching job, I think he took the Colts over at age 33, which gives him, that's why he had a tenure as long as he did. But, obviously he wouldn't have had that tenure had he not been as successful as he was. But, he certainly, and I think, when they had the 100 greatest, players, and I guess were coaches included in that? Because it seems to me,
yes.
he was at the Super Bowl this year, right? And he was introduced. I thought I saw him in a
wanna
wheelchair.
Say, yes, I want to say he was. He was. I think I remember because they did a weird thing because they went from position by. They did this. They went around the stadium. Remember Darryl Green being part of the defensive back group.
Right.
Don't remember seeing Kenny Houston. No, Kenny Houston was there too.
Right. Kenny was there.
Yeah, he was there. And you know what? T-Cat does know his technology. He has zoomed to me that it was an 18-point underdog win for the New York Jets back in that Super Bowl. So
yeah, well,
Todd is producing for us, John.
He does a heck of a job along with Stevie Katz.
Yes.
Our producers. All right, take a break. You got something for us? Hit me.
Yes, sir. Now more than ever, it's important to keep your car ready for anything at your local Honda dealer service department. You're in safe hands. Safe hands that are expertly trained using only Honda genuine parts. Safe hands that'll take every precaution to keep your car clean and sanitized. Safe hands that'll follow strict CDC guidelines, working with gloves, covering all commonly touched surfaces with plastic. And best of all, safe hands that'll work on any make or model, because with Honda, you and your car are in safe hands. Contact your local Honda dealer for more information. Also, did you know that your Redskins are sponsored by Koch Industries? That's K-O-C-H, Koch. Their 67,000 U.S. employees make a lot of things that make game day better. Greener turf, they make that. Stronger paper products for tailgating, they make that too. And electronic equipment for TVs and smart devices to help you watch the Redskins this year. Yeah, Koch makes that too. See all they make for on and off the field at KOCHmakesthat.com. John?
All righty. Well, we all know money's going to be tight here in the near future, and you can't wait when you have a plumbing problem. So what's O'Connor Plumbing going to do for you? No payments for 6 months on all services. Get quick on-the-spot credit approval. Convert to a long-term 120-month fixed low APR loan afterwards, plus waive diagnostic fees and 10% off on all services. Don't neglect your plumbing. It's the heart of your house. Call O'Connor Plumbing at 1-833-RIGGO-44.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand back and watch the Phoenix rise from the ashes.
Stand back. It's Riggo the Diesel.
All right, Larry. I was going to ask you, have you seen, I have not, because we pulled part of our cable plug and we don't get ESPN, but I believe they just started a series of shows that involve, what is it called? TCAT, The Last Dance.
Last Dance, I'm all over it. Yeah.
I figured you probably would be.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because, and we were just talking about, it's kind of a lead into what we were just talking about with Don Shula and team success and how they work together and how coaches are able to meld personalities together to get the engine to function at peak efficiency. And I think that, and I haven't seen it, maybe you could tell us a little bit of what you've learned from this, but I think, you go back and I got the impression from TCAT now that maybe everything wasn't hunky-dory with everybody. Of course, it's a lot smaller unit too, in a basketball team. I would guess it's probably in a professional sport, the fewest players involved on a roster. But I would have to, I get the impression that, not that they were at each other's throats, but everybody wasn't, going to church on Sunday holding hands. And that made me think of the Oakland Athletics of the early 70s, early 70s, I believe. They were winning a lot of World Series, but I got the impression they were all kind of diverse in some ways. And the interesting thing is that, but when it came time to do what you got paid to do, and it's kind of, I get a kick out of that because, they were professionals and ultimately that's what I think you want. And that's what I think great coaches like Gibbs, Shula et al., Belichick, that's what they're able to convince their guys that you get the best effort on Sunday. They are the epitome of professionalism.
Yeah. And that it's what I learned, I guess would be a good question. I learned that he really dislikes Isaiah Thomas. So far, that has been loud and clear. I knew that they didn't get along. That would have been one of the reasons Isaiah wasn't on the Dream Team game. He disputed that. Michael Jordan disputed it, but he came right out and said he doesn't like the guy. He respects him as a player, but doesn't like him. Actually said he hates him. The other thing I learned is
this
really
recently, Larry? Is this recently?
This is a clip. What they actually did, they had cameras way back in 1991 all the way to 98. It's great. It's very well done because it's a little hard to follow sometimes because they're going to 98, which was the last dance, the last year of Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan together. That is the so-called last dance. But they want to say how they got to that point. So they tell the story of Jerry Krause, the general manager, who didn't seem like a very likable guy. No longer with us. Don't want to say anything about him. But there was a big rub internally. He wouldn't pay Scottie Pippen, and so that caused a fracture in the team. And he was the GM. And then the Isaiah Thomas part of it, the way that Magic and Bird really respected Michael Jordan, so they really anointed him the greatest ever. I think that stamp on him from them gave him credibility that he really would have had to earn. He got that stamp early after a couple championships, and he did obviously proved it through his career.
Yeah, he lived up to it.
He loves smoking cigars. He's smoking cigars through segments 5 and 6. They've run 6 segments, 6-hour shows so far that take you through Rodman. Rodman, a different personality, and Horace Grant was mentioned last time. They thought he was leaking to the press. It was very well done. But the guy, it seems like he's got a cigar in his mouth half the time, a little bit like Sonny Jurgensen. So that there's something to me that appealed to that part of Michael Jordan. And they're obviously talking about how he was a cutthroat competitor. They talk about him, liking to gamble, never proved anything illegal about the guy, but that he loved competition. And that is just obvious. Well, you knew that going in because he was such a great player, but his competitive nature never ended. And that really is what drove him through some of the relationship issues he had with teammates, coaches, and front office.
Yeah, I was wondering though, but is he like now currently, is he part of it in the present where they ask him questions about things back then, or is this a compilation of the footage over a period of time?
It's both. There are recent interviews with several people, including Michael Jordan. I identify 2 recent long interviews that he did in different locations. He's an older looking guy now, not as ripped. You could tell that this is a modern interview. There's a couple of those, and a couple with a lot of other people as well. Phil Jackson he's woven through the whole thing. But you also have interviews from the 90s, long sit-downs, talking about, like, he went a period of time, I want to say it's 92, 93 season, where he didn't talk to the media. 93, they were going for 3rd straight championship, and he shut the media out. And they were showing interviews of him talking to Ahmad Rashad in his car because he was buddies with Ahmad Rashad. And so they do have the luxury of a lot of access to Michael Jordan, recent access as well. So, John, this is something I think you could binge watch on a boring day for you. Tee up 3 or 4 of those. You don't have cable?
Oh, I've got cable, but we cut our package like it's not a premium package where you get ESPN.
I see.
I have to go with that.
Maybe there's the on-demand section that might
exactly.
have that.
But so when he made his statement about his dislike for Isaiah Thomas, was that currently or was that way back when?
Currently, he's wearing a blue shirt, got the little different mustache. He looks a little haggard. He looks like an older gentleman now. And they obviously beat that to death. And I want to say he was quite, I hate him, but I respect him as a great point guard.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's interesting because, you'd think after all these years, you might kind of go, But, it's like he's still, which actually probably tells you how a little bit, you get to look into the inner workings a little bit, how you can keep something like that alive for,
they also have Isaiah. They also have a recent interview with Isaiah because I know Isaiah, and I saw Isaiah at a fight night 2 years ago. I hadn't seen him in like 10 years. And, we got reacquainted, and this is an older Isaiah Thomas that's being interviewed. It has to be fairly recent. They've got an interview with David Stern, which looks like a recent interview. Obviously, it can't be too recent because he passed away here in 2020, but Maybe in 2019 they did some of these interviews, but still, fairly recent.
Yeah, well, like I said, that I guess somebody that, I mean, clearly there was a manic drive inside of Michael Jordan. And, that's what I'm saying. If you still got a grudge against Isaiah Thomas after all these years, although I can think of a guy I still got a grudge against, but it's kind of starting to mellow a little bit.
Who's that?
I'm not going to name any names.
You're not going to tell me.
No, because he's way bigger than me. He beat the hell out of me. I got to suffer in silence.
How about this, JR? How about your most driven teammate, the teammate that you played with or player in the league that you looked at that guy and says, this guy is a maniac competitor and this what sets him apart? I guess Brady's a little bit like that because his arm strength isn't the greatest, but you see him on the sideline, you see how he just wants his team to do better. Is there anybody in your career path that would fit that bill?
I tell you, the guy there's a lot of people that would fit it, but a guy that was driven is Joe Theismann. I think Joe was that guy, particularly when the team, he wanted it so bad. Of course, he wanted to do well. Joe's not unlike the rest of us. He's got a little bit of an ego. But at the same time, I think that it's like I'd forgotten about this, but there was a game, and it would have been in either 81, maybe 82. But he got some teeth knocked out in the game. Billy Kilmer's another one that comes to mind.
It was the game that Mosley kicked the field goal in the snow. Joe got his teeth bashed out.
Exactly. I'm thinking the big guy gets his teeth knocked out. Bye-bye. I'm on my way to the dentist. That'd be a little bit tough. But my point is that Joe was, he's very focused. And and I'll tell you another guy they say, I don't know that much about him, is Roger Staubach. They say Staubach, it doesn't make any difference if you're playing tiddlywinks or if you're back playing a little bit of, horse, whatever it is. He has to win. He has to win. Yeah, I don't think I'm quite that competitive, actually. I believe in surviving, not competing. Because when you think about it, Larry, a survivor is the guy that comes out on top. There's many they always talk about, this is the thing that gets me a little bit, about how coaches, they're always talking about, well, he's a competitor, he wants to compete. Now I'm going, I want survivors. Don't give me competitors. Hey, that's what they call the runner-up in the Super Bowl. They were competitors. Survivors are wearing the rings. That's the way I see it. Anyway, and that kind of leads me into, if we got time, shall we go on to the next segment?
Quick tease. What's the next segment? And then we'll do it.
Well, we're going to do a little bit of home and gardening here, if you want to.
Okay, I'd love to, because I'm a big fan of that. I spent a lot of my time recently doing that on the weekend, so I want your tips. But before that, whether on the sidelines or the classroom, whether you're on the chalkboard doing X's and O's or vocabulary work, whether you're a pro football coach or Mrs. Johnson at George Mason High School, the Washington Redskins believe in the power of great teachers. That's why partnering with youth entrepreneurs to bring Washington, D.C. teachers the resources they deserve. And in response to the coronavirus pandemic, Youth Entrepreneurs has launched Teach Everywhere, a place for teachers to call home while adjusting to teaching at home. The resource contains distance learning activities, resources and tools, and a series of webinars from expert educators. Visit teacheverywhere.org to learn more. Also, connect with the Redskins this offseason. Follow @Redskins on Instagram and Twitter for team news, updates, and exclusive Redskins content.
Riggins. He's going to go all the way, unless Blackwood can catch him, and he can't.
They left the scoreboard out there. I remember seeing Redskins 27, Dolphins 17. And it was that moment of truth where I went, damn, I'm a world champion.
John, when he walked, he had a little bop to him. And besides that, he had the booty out there. They nicknamed him Chocolate Chip.
Story time with Riggo.
Anyway, this week, about 3 weeks ago, I don't know, I'm sure you've probably used a backpack sprayer in the past, or at least the kind that used to have a strap on it where you pump it full of air and then you spray.
The pump. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, about 2 years ago, I think it was, maybe 3 now, I bought one the first one's not a backpack sprayer. They've been around for years. I remember years ago, God, back in the 50s, my dad, we had a little parcel of land, and I remember him taking one of these things and putting insecticide in it and walking through the corn rows. We had it, you know, and it wasn't sweet corn, it was field corn. He's spraying for grasshoppers. That's how bad they were. But that's one kind, it's a cylinder kind of a sprayer. The other is the backpack, which was invented here, I don't know how long ago that's it. And it's got a little arm off on the side of it. And you keep pumping that. When the pressure goes down, you don't have to take the pack off your back and turn around and pump it. Well, I had that one, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, I thought, because now they've come out with an electric backpack sprayer, which has got an internal pump in it that does all that work for you. So you have constant pressure. It's got, you know, the one I got's got about 5 speeds on it, or 5 levels of pressure. And once you get the hang of it, I mean, you know exactly how much chemical or how much fertilizer you're putting down. Well, don't you know, I buy this, and I'll give you an idea, the one that you manually pump, the backpack sprayer, I think I spent about $70 or $80 on that. This sprayer cost about $350. All right, so I forked out some big
for
time
a bug
dough.
sprayer.
But I'm thinking,
geez,
backpack sprayer, yeah, exactly. Well, I'd been doing the other stuff, and it was driving me nuts because you're spraying along, and you gotta be so focused, because if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, you know, the next thing you know, you just got dribs and drabs coming out. It's like trying to urinate when you're 80 years old. You got to be careful. You got to keep that thing pumped up. Anyway, so I got this thing. I take it new in a box. Been here about a month because obviously it was too cold to do anything to spray. And I figured I'd put water in it just because I wanted to check it out and get comfortable with it. And I take it out here. I turn the thing on, and it goes, and then I get the warning sign, like something. I'm going. Anyway, so I go back and forth with the thing. Turns out, I don't know, but the sprayer works, but it doesn't work. It's like the sprayer's got a mind of its own. It works when it wants to. And the controls are around on the side where they're hard to get to, where it's not a big deal. You just got to turn it off, then turn it back on. But it's one of those things, you know, it's like a blessing and a curse. It's so easy when this thing is working, but at the same time, it's so frustrating when it doesn't work. And I called the factory, and they got back to me yesterday and told me, well, said it could be oxidation on some of the connections. And I'm thinking, oxidation? I mean, I just got it. It's been new in the box. He says, well, jiggle the battery around a little bit. So that's where I'm at with this thing. So I went down, did that, and I don't know. I'm going to have to go out and test it here before long. But I have to say this, and I don't know if it's necessarily because of we're in lockdown, but my yard looks about as well as it's ever looked. And I've been here, I sowed the grass myself about 9 years ago. And, and it's, last year I thought it looked pretty good, but it's kind of come full circle this year. It's finally coming on. And what I have here living close to the river is I think I've got more humidity than most people, which allows you to get a couple of different, what are they called? They get it. I can't think of the word right now. But anyway, it's not like a pest, but it's a spore. I can't think of what the heck it is. But anyway, I've been able to, it's called summer patch and brown patch, and it gets into your grass and it kills spots in the grass. And so far, and that's when the weather heats up. And so far, everything's looking pretty good. How about yours, place?
It's fantastic. I think we had a lot of rain, overseeded, which has not come in quite yet. But I got some dogs in the backyard. They tear up my backyard. I got a little patch back there that's got half of it is fantastic, and the other half is nothing but dirt and mulch, because I'm just trying to find a way to grow grass on that patch with these dogs. But I've got a blue pit bull and then another smaller pit bull, so they're pretty aggressive dogs, and they tear up the yard pretty bad. Front yard looks great. I think the extra rain we've had, and it really hasn't gotten that hot yet. So when the heat really kicks in, we got so much moisture in the ground. I think everybody's lawn's going to look good unless they don't pay attention to it. In my neighborhood, John, you got to take care of your lawn. The homeowners association will send you a note saying, "Oh, by the way, there are some yards in the neighborhood that look a little shaky. Why didn't everybody tighten up their yard?" So they'll do that. So you got to around here. You got to make it that way. But I enjoy going out on the weekend, John. Me and you we've got something in common there. I get out there. I do. I don't have a pump though, like you have, and I would say that for $300, that damn pump should work every time.
Yeah.
That should be an on-off situation. You shouldn't have to call the factory. You shouldn't have to worry about oxidation or the battery being jiggled. I mean, that's I would send that back, John.
Yeah, there's other things that should be jiggled besides batteries. I have to agree with that. I was going to say, I don't know 100%. It's not a particularly attractive grass, but I guarantee you, K31 fescue, those dogs will not be able to, you know what I'm talking about? They won't be able to rough it up. It's a wide-bladed fescue, though, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it grows on blacktop. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I got that in the front yard. I got fescue. All my grass is pretty much fescue. I don't have any bluegrass in my yard at all. They don't even sell it anymore. I'd have to go someplace to find bluegrass. It used to be you could get it up here at the McLean hardware store, but they don't have it anymore. Fescue is, I guess,
that's what I have. I have bluegrass. And to me, it's always like, and the reason for it is because there were stadiums where you used to play that had bluegrass. I always loved it. And I think it's, I think Bermuda's nice, but then it browns up in the wintertime.
Right.
So, I'm a bluegrass guy. I will tell you one more thing before we go. I had this sprayer out the other day, and I've got a steep embankment here. And so I'm out there, and so I had the thing full, 4 gallons of spray on the back, and that's about 30-some pounds on your back. I think a gallon of water is about 8 pounds a gallon, somewhere between 7 and 8 pounds. And I got on this steep bank, and all of a sudden my center of gravity is real high. And I thought we were going to have a crash and burn out there in the back. And it was a little bit kind of slippery to begin with, but that didn't happen. So I'm happy to report that I am fine and looking forward to the coming season, which before we go, I wanted to ask you, the schedule will come out on Thursday. Is that correct?
That's the word. And so we should find out. I think the NFL's done a great job of staying on schedule. And I think what we're going to anticipate is seeing games scheduled for the dates that they're supposed to be scheduled. And obviously, we don't know how it's all going to unfold. We don't know about training camp. We don't know about a lot. When you get way down to September 13th, the first Sunday of the season, I think that's what the schedule is going to show. And that's going to be a big topic of discussion for next week's Riggo the Diesel. And I have one tip for you, sir.
Yes,
Do not spray into the wind.
I'll keep that in mind. I've got my Tyvek suit on, though, when I go. I mean, the only thing I don't have is the mask. Anyway, Larry, good talking to you as always, and we'll see everybody next week.
Even though COVID-19 poses an unprecedented challenge, you can count on Novak to deliver reliable power and to help in other ways. Novak.com offers tips to save energy while spending more time at home. Novak customers can monitor their energy use online, as well as pay bills through the website or by phone. And anyone can donate to help neighbors in need through Operation Roundup. Novak, power you can count on.
The Department of Veterans Affairs has the honor of providing care to those who have served this country in uniform. Today, the VA is on the front lines of the battle against the coronavirus, and we need your help. We are looking for medical professionals at every level. I hope that you will consider joining our team, either temporarily or permanently. To learn more, go to va.gov/join us.
Work is work, but there's nothing like a good workout. Tennis, mountain biking, a good run, sweating off the week. That's what weekends are for. Of course, a misstep could put you out of commission. That's why Innova Sports Medicine is here for you. We treat your injuries and recovery like you're a pro. In fact, Innova is the official sports medicine partner of the Washington Redskins. See how we keep you on top of your game at innovasports.org.